Thank you for filling the gaps. Questions? Lee.
Don't take this the wrong way, because I've chastised Jean-Jacques about this in writing before, but is there any reason other than the assumption that small-brained hominids that are contemporaneous in this time frame, like Naledi and Flores, aren't included in studies like this, other than a sort of assumption that it is encephalization that matters in the sort of greater scheme of things that are alike each other or not? Or might there be, because we don't obviously know if there's a introgression or gene exchange in these, and might that give us a more holistic if Flores or Naledi and other things are included in a study like this?
I'm not sure I fully understand your question. So if you just
why isn't Homo naledi included, for example, because it's a small brain hominid in this time period?
Yes.
Why wouldn't it be included in a study like this, as Flores too in the later studies?
Right. Well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the answer. I can talk only about what I know, and I speculate about other things. My speculation is good as yours. Basically, what I see from Israel at least is that there is a huge diversity in hominin, in morphology hominin. There is a huge diversity. The issue is what we do with that diversity. The way we used to think is in some kind of blocks. I mean, whether it's somebody asked Jean-Jacques yesterday, just an hour ago, do you think that Homo heidelbergensis exists? I mean, that is the kind of question that we are asking, and maybe those are the wrong questions. We shouldn't ask the question that way, because there is, we don't know how one human groups emerge or merge into another group. For example, I certainly agree with most of the things that had been said just by Jean-Jacques, is that probably Homo heidelbergensis, or what we call the middle Pleistocene Homo, had nothing to do with Homo sapiens. That's almost for sure. But they had to do with the story of the Neanderthals, because what you have to realize, for example, is that let's say 270,000 years ago, modern humans start migrating out of Africa. Now, in Israel, we have hundreds of sites from that time period that were inhabited by someone which we know it was not a modern human. It looked like a Neanderthal, but surely it's not a Neanderthal. Sure enough, they interbred. But the other thing that could have happened, that some of those pre-Neanderthal groups picked up some of the modern human Homo sapiens genes and went to Europe, because there was an ongoing pressure out of Africa. It's not just one big wave outside Africa, and there is a wonderful paper published like 2 years ago by Kolodny and Feldman on the out of Africa model. It's a theoretical model, but showing that actually the way to look at the African migration is not by waves, like a huge exodus of 3 or 4 big exodus out of Africa, but rather slow infiltration of people coming out of Africa all the time. And probably what could have occurred is that they were pushing out the Neanderthals living here in the Near East towards Europe. And this is why we find these two types of Neanderthals, one with more Denisovian characteristics, genetically speaking, with Denisovian characteristics, and one with more Homo sapiens characteristics, as Jean-Jacques just said.
Brigitte, Jean-Jacques, and Robin.
It will be a very quick comment, and thank you very much, because you point out a very important question in paleontology and human evolution particularly, is variation and variability. And I think we should reconsider quite a few of our species, fossil species. They have been splitting and splitting and splitting, and I wonder if some of them are not the same thing with a wide variability, and how would you address that?
That's a great question, because I can tell you what I think, because I told you in the past, because of preconceived notion, we never included the Asian hominin in our analysis. Everybody said, oh, they don't belong with the story, forget about it. But the more we do it, the more we see, for example, if we go to the Nesher Ramle specimen, the parietal bone, it is associated with some of the Asian fossils, like Centrios or so on. So if you ask me, that's my own opinion. I think that there is one large, huge population during the middle Pleistocene that start from East Asia, throughout Asia, Africa, and the Levant. I think it's one single population with indeed the regional diversity, but the way I look at them today is a single population, not different populations.
Thank you.
Yes, it's not really a question. It's more an information or comment. Okay, we're entertaining all these scenarios of out of Africa, or so-called out of Africa movements. Again, I'm not sure it's a movement. I think it's more hominins basically expanding in a certain type of environment where they are happy to live. So there are several, I would say, scenarios on the table, but recently many of them involve several events. And I was recently in a meeting with Mark Stoneking, who is a geneticist in Leipzig, and he gave a very interesting paper where he was entertaining the notion that extant humans today descend from several episodes of dispersal out of Africa or not. And I'm not going to give a talk of genetics, but he made very good arguments that, in fact, in living population today, you can document only one source at a given time, which implies, and this is something we actually can support with some evidence, which implies that in this dispersal there were, and we return to this notion of extinction, there were probably situations where we had pioneer populations expanding in territories that later on were completely replaced without much descendants by newcomers. And we have this in Europe, for example, guys like, or Eurasia, Western Eurasia, guys like Ustishim or Oase or some others, and soon we will publish a paper with data from another site documenting this. The very first, I would say, again, pioneer population coming into Eurasia, they have no descendants today. These guys, they are not European, they are not Asian, they are nothing. They have been completely replaced by others coming after, maybe not a long time after. I think it's something to keep in mind in terms of what is the scenario and what is the final effect of that. So it looks like the last, I would say, the Manod, I mean, maybe after Manod actually, the most recent expansion of our species, especially the one that expanded higher in latitude, basically swamped everything that was before.
Robin?
Wonderful. 3 comments. The first is with Mesnir. I think for once the archaeology is useful in telling us about populations. The associated paper with the publication on Mesnir shows that there is an immense, very sharp break between the Achillean Yabrudian from Qasem and the Tabun D assemblages from Mesnir at around 250,000. Is that working? Well, can you hear me? Okay. No, there's a major break atmosphere in the lithic record in Israel between Qasem with an Achillean Yabrudian assemblage and the advent of the Tabun D Middle Paleolithic assemblages
at around 250,000. And I agree with the authors of that paper that it implies an influx of a new population, and for me, that would place sapiens more likely in the Levant at 250,000 than, as indicated by the fossil record, at 185. So I think I would expect to find Homo sapiens fossils going back beyond 200,000 in the Levant. The second is just a basic biogeographic point that the Levant is on that boundary of the Saharan Arabian biorealm and the Palearctic. So you would expect mixing of populations and fauna. So that sort of hybrid record, I think, is entirely predictable. And the third point concerns what was said about China. I'd be very cautious about the earliest evidence, alleged evidence for Homo sapiens in southern China, especially with Lujiang, which has dates claimed at 69 to, I think, 130,000. No one knows where it came from. There's no context. It was found by villagers digging fertilizer. We have no idea where it came from. Jirendong, again, dating is a major problem, and even perhaps Fujian. So I would keep an open mind regarding southern China.
To comment on the last thing that you said, it's always, I find it always a problem. It is always dangerous to be selective. I agree with you that I suspect many of the publications related to the dating of modern humans or Homo sapiens in China, but it's either we get it and we go on with it, or we don't believe what we read. So if we don't go with it, I mean, we are stuck. We cannot make any progress.
The answer lies with the next speaker, talking about Tampaling, which I think is much more secure, and also from Francois Sema's talk on Sumatra earlier with Lida Adja. For me, those are more reliable baselines, but we should hear what they say.
Very good transition. Thank you, Robin.